Hey, this is Joseph over at Patrick Price, and just like you, I'm working from home and trying to keep our team productive, working on things that will help us accomplish our goals and also prepare us for whatever is coming next. And one of the things that we want to talk about today is penetration testing. It's one of those things that you can do while you're remote. You don't have to be on premises to do some of the penetration testing activities that our compliance frameworks require us to do. And so I'm here with Rob Ayer from Avidine Health. He's the Senior Director of Information Technology. And Rob, I'd love for you to share a little bit about penetration testing from your experience. And so my first question is, how long have you been doing penetration testing and why do you do it?
Sure. Thank you, Joseph. And I too am at home right now, and so we all get to focus on what's important. So we've been doing penetration testing with Kirkpatrick Price. I believe we are going on almost year 5 now. And we do penetration testing and web application assessment with you guys, both to meet our compliance requirements, but we do it for a couple other reasons as well. I mean, for example, we use it to measure the effectiveness of our own vulnerability management programs. We want to make sure that we have those dialed in, and it's always good to get a third-party perspective. And we do it to gain additional visibility. You know, we have security. We have a SOC on staff that we use, but we don't necessarily have the tool sets that dedicated certified pen testers have. So it is definitely good to have those people available to us to give us something that our own staff can't give us.
Yeah, great. And what has your experience been with penetration testing? Is it something that you can do entirely remotely? What kind of support do you have to offer it with the technology that you have available to you?
Sure. I mean, the engagements that we've had for penetration testing has been completely remote. I mean, effectively, to walk through an engagement, it looks like we have a kickoff call. We go through a scoping exercise to get our network documentation and line out the networks and the target systems and can determine our sample sets. And that process is an hour or two on the telephone. We spin up some virtual appliances that you guys provide, place them on network so we can do internal assessments. And we also have this might apply to some other customers of yours, but we've got a hybrid environment with a segment in AWS. And so you guys provide an appliance within an AMI for us in AWS. So you can test from all different network perspectives inside and out. The entire process itself, start to finish, on a standard infrastructure pen test for us is about 2 weeks. Just dependent upon how large your network is and that sort of thing. And we've also engaged with you guys on web application assessments, and those can range anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks, depending upon the complexity.
And when a test is happening, what kind of support do you have to give it? Do you have to respond to any alerts or issues that come out of the testing as it's happening?
We don't necessarily. I don't think there's been a circumstance where infrastructure pen testing has caused us any network or systems problems. I mean, we have some alerts that go off. We have our monitoring systems that seem a little, depending on how sensitive you have them tuned, they will go off. But we've never had to call up a pen tester and say that they're being too aggressive on the network. And it's always good for, when that's happening and when the pen tester is doing his work, it's not necessarily announced to us. It's always good to see those flags in our network, specifically in our SIMs and in our IDS, to make sure that our systems are working properly. But no, we've not had to engage on any real-time support. After the scoping and the engagement begins, pen tester works in the background. And eventually comes back to us with a draft report, and we're all surprised that he's done.
That's good. It's always great to be able to have an independent set of eyes look at your configuration, your security, and test things as if they were a hacker and looking at how they might break your environment or attack it in that way. Last question I'll ask you, Rob, is what's something that you've learned from penetration testing as you think back to some of the tests that you've been involved in? Is there anything that stands out at you about lessons that have come out that were beneficial?
Yeah, I mean, it's an iterative process. One of the things that we learned is that during your first engagement, don't be surprised as to the results. There are going to be a lot more findings than you'd expect, or that you'd like to see, or that your CISO would like to see. But as the engagements go on year over year, if you see a consistent decline in findings and the severity and the risk level starts to go down, then you know you're doing your job well, and so is the pen tester. So that was kind of an eye-opening exercise, is the quote, the first pen test, right? And you know, and I think that your pen testers say this, and your project managers say this, and your auditors say this. An audit or a pen test without any findings is not a good assessment. You know, you should always necessarily expect some findings, if not to compare them against to what you're seeing with your own vulnerability management programs. But at the same time, you know, what I've learned is that penetration test is distinctly different than just doing your own standard vulnerability scanning. You get a pen tester with a set of skill set that gives you various perspectives on the network. It's second to none if you're using your own tools. So we use it to get a unique perspective, compare against our existing systems, our existing findings, and we use it to fill in the gaps because we have product development staff and software developers and IT engineers, but if an organization doesn't have you know, on-premise skill sets for white hat hacking, then it's always good to have that extra party out there to give you that perspective.
That's great. Yes, remember, we are ethical hackers. We try to think like the bad guys, but we're on your side, and we want to help out with this important testing that needs to take place at least every year, or even when you have significant changes in your environment. So thanks very much for sharing your experience, Rob. And if we can help anybody out there with working on this remotely while we're all working from home, please reach out to us at kirkpatrickprice.com. Have a good night.